It is part 2 of the Week 4 preview here on the Audible. Cecil, Lammey, Sigmund, Bloom, and it just doesn't matter because it's Jets and it's Steelers. I guess, Bloom, we'll talk about it, even though the Steelers make me upset and the Jets aren't really that interesting. But Zach Wilson's back this week, buddy. What's that mean for them? And why does it mean you're downgrading all your Jets?
Right. Well, and maybe you're not. We'll see. I think that the one thing we can say positively for Zach Wilson is, and this is when we get into the analysis of what's gone wrong with Justin Fields. There's so many things, but the Bears have not surrounded Justin Fields with the talent to help him succeed. Now, you look at the talent at wide receiver for the Jets, it's there for sure. They've invested both through the draft and free agency. And offensive line, well, they tried, Cease. They tried. They drafted Mekhi Becton. They signed Dwayne Brown. They signed George Fant. All three of those guys are out. That's a problem, even without TJ Watt. So maybe Zach Wilson has improved. Maybe we won't be able to tell because of tackle play. Maybe he'll just be rusty. We'll see. Maybe you play the Pittsburgh defense. It won't be shocking if Zach Miller looks at least a little bit better, and adding Garrett Wilson to the mix makes it work. Wilson and Elijah Moore are what the heck flex plays, because we're in fact-finding mode here about where Zach Wilson is. I do think you're seeing Breece Hall inch ahead of Michael Carter. For the first time last week, Hall had more snaps than Carter. And wouldn't it make sense? Actually, you can run the ball on the Steelers. You probably want to run the ball on the Steelers. You probably want to run the ball on the Steelers if you're the Jets, right? It's the strength of the line is the interior offensive line. And when you leave Zach Wilson back there, taking time, then bad things can happen. You hand the ball off to Breece Hall, Michael Carter, good things can happen. So you think that Breece Hall, you're much more inclined to play him, assuming rational coaching. Tyler Conklin, we'll see. I mean, that's how much of that. If there's anybody who really gets hurt, Cease, dramatically, it is Conklin, just because Joe Flacco and maybe the running backs. But you hope there'll be some more balance here. Because this is a game where the Steelers aren't going to run away from the Jets, right? They're not going to rack up points and force the Jets into desperation comeback mode like the Bengals did last week. So Tyler Conklin, short targets, I don't know. That's what we're looking for Zach Wilson, is some more discipline, some more checkdowns. You're just getting the ball out of his hand if the play goes past like 3 seconds. That's what we want to see. I know that Zach Wilson wants to be the hero and hit Corey Davis or Elijah Moore or Garrett Wilson downfield on these broken plays. And it did happen a few times last year. But that's what we want to see, some maturity, some growth in how Wilson approaches the game.
You can't see maturity when the guy looks like he's 12. And just think about what you said. The Steelers aren't going to run away from the Jets. The Steelers aren't going to run away from the Jets. Oh, my God. So Steelers side of things, Najee Harris, Windows, ladies and gentlemen, keep riding Najee Harris because they're going to use him up. And then I'm not really I feel like I should protest the Steelers until they get Kenny Pickett in, right? I just
picket signs.
What?
Picket signs out.
The
picket line.
Yes.
Let's make a picket line.
Yes. Heck no, we won't go, right? Nothing rhymes with Trubisky.
We're here. We want him.
Right.
What do we want? Kenny Pickett. When do we want it?
Now. Yeah. All right, let's do it again so I don't step on it. What do we want? Kenny Pickett. When do we want it?
Yesterday.
Now. Yeah, exactly. So, I don't know. Harris and what?
Yeah, right. That's your Steelers take, right? That's the take on the Steelers offense, the picket line. Najee Harris is going to get a game script at least, and we'll see. Deontay Johnson's going to get his targets, so he's in as a low ceiling wide receiver 3 flex. He's still in. He can make some plays. Pat Freiermuth at least got 2 for 41 last week, even though he was involved very much until the later stages of the game. So it's tight end. It's a rough year tight end. He's probably in. It is the Jets. However, we saw Sauce Gardner actually look really good last week against Jamar Chase, by the way.
Yeah, watch that coach's tape.
Yeah. So not that you were going to play George Pickens anyway, but that's a great rookie on rookie matchup, even though it's not going to result in probably very many plays where the ball is in the air in their direction. And yeah, Cease, like you said, we're protesting, we're disgusted, we're Steelers fans.
We're Steelers fans. That's what happens. Bills fans, well, they're wanting to get that comeback, right? And it's against Baltimore. That's the great thing about this game. It's like, okay, Bills, you're upset. You lost last week. Well, now you travel to face Baltimore. So, like, you better be sharp. And the thing with the Bills is every week is that opponent's Super Bowl. Most opponents, Baltimore has designs of making a deep postseason run. They certainly could do that. But how do the Bills bounce back? Will they just run the ball? Like, that's what the Colts did. Like, they just had a commitment. We're just going to keep running. Like, it doesn't matter. The Dolphins, obviously, they just want to keep running. The Bills, I mean, what Allen have? 63 attempts?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that should never happen. Should never happen, especially in a close game. Run the damn ball.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is going to be quite a game. This is a really exciting game because of where we're seeing each of these teams in the arc of their season. With Buffalo, again, they're coming off Ken Dorsey, right? The whole Buffalo organization's Ken Dorsey. Oh, I can't believe it. Because, they should have won the game. I mean, they were the better team. They were clearly the better team. Steelers fans know a thing or two about games where their team was clearly the better team. I'm going back to the Bill Cowher era.
Oh, yeah.
And you find a way to lose. Yeah, you find a way to lose, right? It's where you win 80% of the plays or 90% of the plays, but the 10 or 20% of the plays you lose you the game. And this team is not accepting that. You could see it in Ken Dorsey. And Buffalo's defense is vulnerable. So it's going to be Josh Allen against the secondary, and there's not going to be the heat, right? There's not going to be cramps. There's not going to be players having to hang out on the sidelines until they catch their breath. It's not going to be like that. And in fact, we're going to see what the weather is. That's another thing we're going to keep in mind. Have Chris Allen back on Sunday morning talking about weather for these games because of what's going to be left of Hurricane Ian. By the way, not thinking many people down in Southwest Florida are listening to us right now, but we are sending out our thoughts and members of our community. If you catch up and listen to this later, I'll mention this on a few other shows. If you're a member of our community and you need some help, let us know. We want to marshal the community efforts to help people when they're in need. And I know there's a lot of people in Southwest Florida in need right now. And Buffalo needs this win, though, to get their Super Bowl bound confidence back. And you hope that Gabe Davis is healthier. He's at least a wide receiver flex. Of course, Stephon Diggs is in there. Isaiah McKenzie, a what the heck flex here because of that chemistry with Josh Allen, even though he's splitting the role in terms of snaps with Jamison Crowder. Maybe we'll see him move there. Maybe we'll see McKenzie get the majority of snaps too any given week. And Devin Singletary is asserting himself. It was as a receiver last week. But see, like you said, Buffalo needs to have some balance. They need to have something, and this is something that gets more important as we go on, but Devin Singletary is starting to assert himself in terms of snap count shares, and it's also coming for Dawson Knox sooner or later. You keep playing Dawson Knox because he's a quality athlete, and he generally was used more in the red zone, and it's Buffalo, and Buffalo against Baltimore is going to put up some points. See, the bigger question here is, will Baltimore put up some points on this very good Buffalo defense?
Yes, Baltimore's very good quarterback making those strides, and Mark Andrews making everyone's dreams come true. Because you got Mark Andrews, you're good. You didn't get Mark Andrews, you're not good. That is a brutal position.
Mm-hmm.
Brutal position this year. So let's look at the Baltimore side, and hell, are they ever going to be able to run the ball with someone other than Lamar Jackson?
Yeah, that's what you're looking for here. But now, granted, Buffalo's defense has been really, really, really good. Really good. And last week, they didn't have to be as good because they were on the field for about 20 minutes. But it's going to be very interesting, Cease, because it's not quite the playoffs. But what have we seen with Lamar Jackson in the playoffs? Whatever's been working in the regular season is not working anymore in the playoffs. Now, Lamar Jackson has taken some strides forward as a passer since we've seen his playoff failures. So this is very interesting. It wouldn't be surprising to see Buffalo really put the clamps on this offense in general and frustrate them. We've seen that with Baltimore's offense with Lamar Jackson. It would be surprising if Lamar Jackson says, no, actually, I can go toe-to-toe with Josh Allen now. This can be a game basically where the quarterbacks, a good old NFL game sees where the quarterbacks basically just decide the game. Which quarterback's better? Like the Mahomes-Allen playoff game, right? So you like Lamar Jackson, you like this as a test for him, because if he comes through with flying colors here, then we're looking at maybe his second MVP season. But you want to establish the run. You saw Justice Hill break off a few runs last week. You saw J.K. Dobbins at least look like J.K. Dobbins. And you wonder if that's the tack they're going to take, knowing that Buffalo's run defense is pretty good. You're going to have some shots downfield to Rashad Bateman, a boom bust play. Devin Duvernay's coming on. We may see after this game that Devin Duvernay is someone we really have to take seriously for fantasy leagues. And then, like you said, Mark Andrews. And I think when I go back, see, you know, an article I want to write this week, what I wish I had written a month ago. I want to write an article this is what I wish I had written to you a month ago. And one of the things that I wish I'd written, or I mentioned, and this is always how it is, right? When you're evaluating players for fantasy draft season, you're thinking, well, here's some best case scenarios and some worst case scenarios. And I was fading Andrews at his second round ADP because his big games came with Tyler Huntley and Josh Johnson, backup quarterbacks that maybe might not have been as nuanced or subtle with their reads and their ability to go deeper in progressions and just relying on Andrews. But I think what we're seeing, especially in the red zone, is Lamar Jackson, and I brought this up as a possibility, that Lamar Jackson would also, after that, and see how well Andrews performed in that role, say, well, I'm just going to rely on him too. And we saw that in the red zone with that catch where Devin McCourty was draped all over him. We saw a touchdown by design on a shovel pass to Mark Andrews. So congratulations. And sometimes maybe we just need to look at the numbers and not worry so much about how they got the numbers.
Yeah, not the how. Just tell me the why. Tell me it happened. Give me the results and give me Chargers and Texans. Yeah, okay, I guess. But if you talk about bounce back games, it could be there for the Chargers. We're all nervous about Justin Herbert because he's on the Chargers and that medical staff.
Right.
Keenan Allen, speaking of medical, Keenan Allen should be back this week. All right. What's that do to Mike Williams if you happen to have him in? So we know Jalen Guyton's down there, and then we know, of course, Austin Eckler are going to plug him in and play him. But it's mainly just, okay, it's the Texans. You should be able to do whatever you want. Now go do it and look good like the Chargers we expected.
Yeah, this is a game to check in with the Chargers. Is the season lost? And is it really, is this going to be
Week
a team?
4.
Right. But the thing is, you lost Joey Bosa for some part of the season. You lost Rashawn Slater for the rest of the season. Justin Herbert's banged up. Austin Eckler can't get the run game going. And it's just not looking good after a pretty promising first 2 weeks. There's so many different ways they could have won the game against the Chiefs, right? They come out of that Thursday night game 2-0 with wins over the Chiefs and the Raiders, especially the win over the Chiefs on the road. And we're feeling really good about this team. And what a difference a week makes, as Jacksonville just humiliated them. Remember, this is a Jacksonville team that the last thing they could possibly do was win a game on the road. Although I guess it's kind of a road game for both teams when the Chargers play in LA. So we're checking in here. You hope that you have a bounce back performance from Justin Herbert. You hope that includes a healthy Keenan Allen and Mike Williams making some plays downfield. I'm not as sure about Gerald Everett. Josh Palmer returns to the number 3 wide receiver job, but really it's about Eckler. It's about getting Eckler going. And some of it's the run game, although I don't know if you're going to get the run game going. I think it's that short passing game, and we have seen passes in the short passing game to Eckler, but more in a desperation comeback mode than setting him up for big gains. And also in the red zone, just more involvement with Eckler. I think this is kind of like what we'll talk about when we get to Arizona, Carolina, where it's just, I know that this was a Justin Herbert team to begin the season, but while Herbert's hurt, it should be an Austin Eckler team. And we'll see if Joe Lombardi gets that memo. I think we know who runs the Houston offense, and if the Texans can hang in this game and make Chargers fans even more miserable, it will probably be because of Dameon Pierce.
Yeah, probably be because of Pierce and what he does on the football field. And with Houston, you're like, okay, you already know everything. You know what you're going to get from Brandon Cooks. You know what you're going to get from Dameon Pierce, or at least you hope, Bloom. So let's hope that at home, the Texans can stay in it enough to keep running.
Yeah, make some plays on defense. This team has actually forced some turnovers, gotten some sacks, and we're going to see a lot of Pierce, as much Pierce as the game script allows. Again, that's going to depend on if Justin Herbert can open up a lead, Austin Eckler and company, or if this game stays close, like the Houston-Denver game that horrible version of a game that you had to watch these. Otherwise, Davis Mills is spreading the ball around. So we're not counting on Brandon Cooks. We're not seeing the Nico Collins breakout. We're seeing multiple tight ends. 1 week it's OJ Howard, 1 week it's Pharaoh Brown. Jordan Akins is back. When did that happen? But without Joey Bosa, this defense has more trouble getting off the field. And you wonder, I know it's not necessarily week to week like this, but you wonder if the Texans look at what Trevor Lawrence and the Jags were able to do with the short passing game, the rhythm timing passing game. And I think the Texans do have the personnel to at least keep the offense on schedule with that. So I think that, strangely enough, Cease, this looks like a roughly even matchup right now, and that's where we are. And you just wonder, at some point you move on from superstition and curses, and you wonder if it's just how the organization is run. And this has always been an organization that is notoriously cheap. And why are they even in Los Angeles? Right? This is not good. And I just feel for Chargers fans, because we aren't even out of September officially today, and we're already giving up hope.
Yeah, just when Chargers fans start coming out of the woodwork, you know what I mean? And like real fans too. I've actually ran into a couple. I'm like, wow, you saw Mr. Bungle shirt at Jazz Fest, Bloom. I've seen Chargers fan in the wild, and I'm like, that's pretty rare. Both of them are pretty rare. I should have worn my Mr. Bungle shirt.
Yeah, next time.
I've got like 20 maybe.
Wow,
something like that. Yeah. So, anyway, that's a weird flex, bro, but okay.
You can open up the Mr. Bungle Museum.
Right, exactly. There you go. It is Arizona and the LA Rams, or excuse me, sorry, Carolina. Why do I always do that? Every time I jot down the games, right? And I'm like LAR or CAR, that's a C. So I'll make sure that that's correct. Rewind it. Arizona and Carolina is up next. And Arizona side, get your Eno Benjamin stock ready. Is he my sleeper of the week, Bloom? We'll have to wait till the end of the show to find out. Sleeper of the week. That's coming up at the end. But Kyler Murray, making beautiful music together with Marquise Brown. We're still waiting on DeAndre Hopkins. I recommended that to fantasy GMs out there. Had a guy last night ask me a question out at Orlando and Cecil's pizza party. He's told me some stuff about the Chargers organization, Bloom. It'll make your head spin. So I'm off track with that. But anyway, and so the dude was like, man, I need some wide receiver help. And I was like, all right. And, if DeAndre Hopkins is out there, he's almost back. Michael Gallup should be back. Jameson Williams, he should be back pretty soon. So there is some help out there. But no Hopkins yet. No AJ Green. So what's that mean for Kyler Murray and his targets?
This could be a rough game offensively. Lots of games. There's a lot of games, Cease, where my notes are. This could be a game that the defenses rule. A field position game, don't make any turnovers kind of game, a kicking game kind of game. And this is another one. Why? Because it really does seem like, Cease, that the offense is just classic sandlot. What do we call it? Football. I mean, just we would play like you're the bottle cap, you're the pull tab, you're the cigarette butt, and yes, when we were kids, we would use that because they were around. My point is that it's like Kyler Murray run around and make things happen, right? There's not a lot of structure to this offense. You did see, now, granted, when defenses are playing more prevent defense because the Cardinals defense is so bad, then you start seeing some numbers. But they're not getting the run game established. Now, the interesting tension here, sees this is so wild. I forget who posted the stat. I wish I had seen it. That the Panthers are actually running their offense at a faster pace, but they're not getting first downs. I think they put it like they're in a hurry to get off the field.
They're right? Using the time of possession against themselves.
Right? So does this get James Conner going? I mean, again, these are just inept offenses. These are inept offenses in this game. But you would think that Kyler Murray is going to have more possessions and more of a chance to get this offense going. I mean, see, as I'm playing this out in my head, it's almost like if this game stays close, it's bad for Kyler Murray and his fantasy prospects because they're going to keep trying to do the basic offense that they can't get going and not switch modes into the prevent defense offense. So you're still going to play Murray, you're still going to play Conner, and you hope, again, with the time of possession advantage that Arizona should have, at least compared to the previous games when they were down like 3 touchdowns right out of the gate, you would hope it's going to go better. You're still going to play Hollywood Brown, and Zach Ertz. Now, the big question here is, will Rondale Moore be back? He was seen at practice earlier this week. Greg Dortch has a back issue. So now that slot receiver role that has been pretty consistent for fantasy, that is up in the air. We might not be able to use either of those players. And otherwise, this Panthers story, it's the same. Really, they just go back to Teddy, right? I mean, there's one quarterback that's actually been reasonable, adequate in this horrible chapter of quarterback play for the Panthers, and it's been Teddy Bridgewater. It has not been Baker Mayfield.
No, and now with more Christian McCaffrey injury.
Yeah.
By the way, just special shout out on the show. It was Jesse that asked me that question. Because he's like, I listen to you and Sig all the time. So it's like, it's a love, man. It's a love, right? It's that vibration. It's that energy. It's the way the Audible makes you feel, the way that you all make us feel. And I'd rather talk about our listening audience and our fellow people than the Panthers. And now the McCaffrey thing, what is it, blew him a thigh, right?
Yeah.
And listen, he doesn't practice Wednesdays anyway. But when he doesn't practice Wednesday, it's usually non-injury. It's just rest day. And you go, oh, it's McCaffrey. They don't want to wear him out. Well, how many carries did he get last week? And it's like his body's just that. So Windows, you got McCaffrey. They say he's going to play. Okay, thumbs up. Get it while you can. What Too Short say? Get in while you fit in. Fit in while you get in, right? So do it. And you better do it with Christian before any other injuries start mounting and piling up.
Yeah. That, of course, he shows up on the injury report, but what you want to see here is, you would think, one thing we liked about Baker Mayfield, it's funny to reconstruct how Baker Mayfield was the number one overall pick. It was because if the offense set up things that work, he could just do those things, right? That's what he was doing at Oklahoma. And you would think that by design, you would get the ball in Christian McCaffrey's hands as a receiver 6, 7, 8 times a game with this offense.
Right.
Now it is Arizona, so this defense, Vance Joseph, everybody. I think that what we're seeing with Vance Joseph is he is one of those more old school coordinators where this is my system, and if you don't have the players run the system, bueno. And now, does that mean give DJ Moore another chance? All we are saying is give DJ Moore a chance. I don't know. It's okay. But Byron Murphy, if he's on DJ Moore, Byron Murphy did a really good job on Devontae Adams earlier this year. Maybe it's Robbie Anderson. No. Again, it goes back to Christian McCaffrey, but if he's banged up. Did I say this was going to be an ugly offensive game? I feel bad for Panthers fans, if there are any Panthers fans left, after the way this team has been run by David Tepper.
Yeah, let's go to another way the team's been run by Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick, New England Patriots, Green Bay Packers. This is up next here on the Audible Week 4 preview part 2. And the Patriots side, they won't say Mac Jones isn't going to play. Like that was yesterday. Again, Thursday morning, Bloom. I just woke up. I'm having coffee. Thank you all. But like yesterday, when I was writing up the news, and you have to be careful in the way that you say certain things, even though you know something's going to happen, right? But you have to like, hey, Mac Jones we're likely to see Brian Hoyer. You know, you have to throw in that likely, not is he likely, our guy. But like, because Belichick wouldn't say Mac Jones is going to play. Bill, your games don't work anymore. Okay. When Adam Schefter is reporting like this is a severe injury for Mac Jones, like he's gonna miss time, everybody. Okay. Brian Hoyer's in. What does that mean? Does it mean more Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson? What does it mean for Devontae Parker? Does anyone ever trust any of their tight ends? Like it's just New England's not real interesting. And honestly, I'm not a Mac Jones fanboy. I know some Mac Jones fanboys, and I'm like, he was system specific for either Sean Payton or Josh McDaniels. And Payton's not coaching, and McDaniels isn't in New England. So can we please stop with the Mac Jones fanboy stuff? Please?
That would be better than Brian Hoyer, but I don't know how much better. Maybe not that much better. I don't know. This is rough. I mean, everybody's a what the heck flex at best. You know, Harris and Stevenson. And it's at Green Bay, right? It's at Lambeau. So there's not that many of these left in the NFL seats. But I think that there's Green Bay on the road and there's Green Bay at Lambeau. and it's a different proposition. So I think this is going to be. I hope you have the Green Bay defense, and Harrison, Stevenson they're more like desperation plays than what the heck flexes. Maybe Stevenson a little bit better in PPR leagues. Is Jacoby Myers going to be back? Does it matter? Because now you have Devontae Parker activated, but you also have Nelson Aguilar. You also have Kendrick Bourne. And like you said, with Hunter Henry and Johnny Smith, Cease, how much money? What's the total contract value of Parker, Aguilar, Bourne, Henry, and Smith? 60 million-ish?
Yeah.
And what are they going to get out of it, right? I mean, this is one of the situations where you can see what Philadelphia's built up around Jalen Hurts, right? Even what the Jets have built up around Zach Wilson. This is New England's attempt at that, and it's just this is New England. I mean, they did have a lot of fight last week. Mac Jones had a lot of fight against Baltimore, but that's where they're at right now. They're one of those teams, kind of like the Lions or the Texans last year, where if they can compete against a good team, you say good on you, but you're not a good team.
Yeah, and it's okay to know that, like, okay, it was Belichick and Brady. I'll always give both of them a bazillion tons of credit because it's not one or the other. It was Mike Shanahan and John Elway. For people like, it was the coach, it was the quarterback. Like, it's both.
Yeah.
It's both. So, anyway, speaking of coach and quarterback, well, here we go, Aaron Rodgers. Who are you going to throw to now? Are you going to stop complaining? Does Romeo Dobbs, where art thou, Romeo?
Yeah.
Is Romeo Dobbs enough to make Aaron Rodgers less bitchy? Sorry, Joe. In YouTube, like, is that something to satiate him? You know what else could satiate Green Bay? Just more Dylan, more Jones, more goodness. What are you doing with Robert Tonyan this week as well, Bloom, as we continue the puzzle, the ever-shifting Tetris game that is finding a Green Bay receiver?
Right. It's like the gold rush without the gold, Cease. You're just out there in a stream somewhere in your hip waders panning for nothing, panning for rocks. It is, I think, Aaron Rodgers still getting more comfortable. Remember, he started out the season without his starting offensive tackles. And yeah, we knew Sammy Watkins wasn't going to hold up, but you got developing chemistry with Romeo Dobbs. You hope that Christian Watson is healthy enough to play just because it provides that deep element. Rodgers is a low ceiling quarterback one right now with that low ADOT, but you hope that against New England in Lambeau, they can get this offense going, which means Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. Aaron Jones, more like a running back one in this day and age. This is rough, Cease. I know that inflation is on everyone's mind all around the world right now, but with fantasy football, it feels like there's deflation. And I'm not talking about Tom Brady, where just the levels of scoring that you're tolerating are getting lower. Here, Aaron Jones can get a 25 or 30-point game, so he's a running back one. I mean, just that's how it is in fantasy football this year. James Robinson is a strong running back one right now. And then A.J. Dillon. And I think the key to A.J. Dillon here is just getting him goal line opportunities, which they should have in this one. They should dominate time of possession. It's Brian Hoyer, and A.J. Dillon should be good. And I think if you are playing a wide receiver out of this offense right now, it's Dobbs. It's Dobbs over Allen Lazard. And I think we may see something, and there was an item earlier this week to this effect that is happening potentially right now in the Green Bay offense. We might, after we watch this game, say, okay, Dobbs is the top target. And I think you should set lineups, put out trade offers, etc., accordingly.
Bloom, can I ask you a deep and personal question?
Always. This is what this show's for, yeah.
Yes. I don't think either one of us are stat guys necessarily, but we do use data like to, when it makes sense with the film.
Yeah.
You've quoted ADOT on almost every show.
Yeah.
Like this year, like
sure.
this season. So what is the importance of ADOT for you? Not to say that it's not important. I was actually looking at ADOT last night, writing my 3 keys at denverfan.com for victory for the Broncos against the Raiders. And I was looking at the ADOT of Derek Carr, which we'll get to because it's our next game. But I just wanted to ask you publicly, Bloom.
Sure.
Like you're quoting, you're citing ADOT quite a bit.
Yeah, this is an inquisition. Very simply, Cease. Very simply, ADOT and all these stats. This is a chance for me to do a little stat rant. Stats are descriptive, and they can be somewhat predictive, but in the NFL, that's so game plan specific, that's so matchup specific, that where one injury can change the complexion of a whole offense, these stats aren't necessarily predictive, or at the very least, if they're predictive, it's when we truly have an apples to apples or oranges to oranges match. I mean, there's so many variables that can change. You think you're doing apples to apples, but you're not. You're doing apples to pears or apples to persimmons or something, right? But I'll say this about ADOT. It's descriptive of the pass offense. It's descriptive of what part. Are they attacking the deep field? Are they tackling more short and intermediate? And it doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing, right? What's the ADOT in Jacksonville's offense? I mean, it's working. It's working because of the talents that they have there. So I think the other side of this too is, especially if we're talking about Aaron Rodgers, if it's a low ADOT offense, and that's what it's been, is that by design really? Oh, now we're turning Aaron Rodgers into a dink and dunk quarterback? No, it's because of the offensive line. It's because of the chemistry. It's because Alan Lazard got banged up in week 1. And what it means is better times are coming, and they might be coming right now, but it's descriptive. Just because the ADOT of the Green Bay offense is whatever it was, 5.2 or something like that. And of course, and I think that Mike Clay, of course, death taxes and Mike Clay, I think he might have invented this statistic, the average depth of target, or at the very least, he was the first one that really popularized it among fantasy football. So it's descriptive, but what that tells me is that this offense has a room to grow, and it will.
Yeah, I look at air yards. I've always tripped up Brandon Stokely with that. He's like, "What the heck are air yards?" I can't describe it to you, Stoke. You played in the league for 15 years.
Did you hear John Daigle, his take on that last week? There are air yards, and there are air yards, Cease, and there are prayer yards. Not all air yards are created equal.
Okay, there you go. I like it. I like it a lot.
Zach Wilson, the king of prayer yards.
Yes, there it is. Denver and the Raiders is up next here on the Audible, everybody. Do I have a rant within me? I always have a rant within me.
It's a Broncos show.
It is a Broncos show. I'm surprised my key still works in the building, but let's say this. We did see glimpses. For those of you that had to sit through that game last week against the 49ers, which was all of us because it was Sunday Night Football, you saw something ever so brief, ever so slight when Russell Wilson started to run. And I've had questions on Twitter. It's the most important thing ever. Let me engagement farm. I had some questions on Twitter, like, why isn't Russell running? And I believe, this is just me, Bloom. You can take this as a Lassie Blark if you want, but I believe Russell Wilson is being told to run less. When Russell Wilson, who is dangerous, we all know that he had his sandwich.
That's
dangerous sandwich, right? Better watch out.
Secret.
It'll give you burps.
Our little secret.
It's a secret. I've done something dangerous. I can't tell you. Oh man. Yeah. What's dangerous for Russell Wilson? He had mayo and ketchup on his sandwich, right?
I didn't have a napkin.
It's my fancy sauce. Yeah, I didn't use a napkin, guys. I once burped and I once sneezed and didn't say bless you. Like that's dangerous for Russell Wilson. But I believe, this is just me. I'm not telling you anything. I'm just saying what I think. Oh, I have to do this dance. He's been told to run less. When Russell is more of an aloha, and I am all for Russell Wilson being an aloha, when he is more of that, and he's like, Nathaniel Hackett, get out of here. I'm going to run. You saw what you saw at the end of the game. Now, it took a while. Again, it was like one drive, but it was one drive. It was 80 yards, and it ended in a touchdown. So can Russell Wilson, hey, Hackett, if you are telling Russell to run less, I've seen every practice throw that Russell Wilson's done this year, and he can still run, everybody. Is he the young guy, the spry guy? No, of course not. Of course, none of us are, Bloom. Am I right, fellas? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so like he can run. If he does a little bit more, if he looks more like Russ, like vintage Russ, then the Broncos offense should look better. They're still going to split time. The stupid backfield. You want me to get to look like Ken Dorsey? I'll look like Ken Dorsey, right? I don't want to mess up my beautiful drafting table here. But like, yeah, I'll look like Ken Dorsey and throw stuff around when I talk about Javonte and Melvin. And listen, it's Cortland and Judy's. The Broncos playing Thursday night against the Colts, Bloom. Mm-hmm. After this game, if Judy doesn't do it in these two games, you have 7 days with Jerry Judy. You have 7 days with Jerry Judy. If he doesn't do anything in these 2 games, dump his ass now. Okay? Now. Cue the Chuck D. Get rid of him because it's just not working. Okay? And he's out of the excuses. Oh, I this and that, whatever. You're done with the excuses, man. Get off of social networking. Stop complaining. Stop running routes on the beach against your friends who'd never played college football. Right? Oh, I could get open. Yes, everybody knows that. Pat Surtain always talks about that. Like, I get to go against Jerry Jeudy every day. Well, can you get him to be better on the field? Because he's not real good at football. He could get open. Yes. That's only part of your job as a wide receiver. So anyway, Bloom, I hope that was enough. Let's talk about the Broncos against the Raiders.
Well, what it tells you is there are ways for it to not be this bad. There are stories you can tell. There are paths to it. Are we going to get on those paths? To be determined. And like you said, Cease, maybe it's a function of Russell Wilson not being a good soldier, not just going along with the company line, even though it's kind of like watching Dak Prescott sometimes. The one time we've really seen Dak Prescott spread his wings as a fantasy quarterback and also a quarterback that determines the destiny of his team was when the Cowboys defense was so bad that they had to just let him do it, right? That's Russell Wilson, right? With Seattle. That he's being the good soldier. They're running the offense the way it's designed, even though it doesn't embrace Russell Wilson's talents. And then when the game's out of hand and Wilson had to make plays, he can make plays. Now what we're seeing with Denver is he doesn't look like that sensational quarterback when they're just like, okay, do your thing. And like you're hinting at, Cease, maybe some of that is, well, he doesn't have Lockett and Metcalf, right? He doesn't have Doug Baldwin. He doesn't have these players, even Paul Richardson, right? He doesn't have players, I think, that are going to help him in the passing game except for Cortland Sutton.
You just mentioned all the players that don't like him. I'm like, maybe that's the problem. Maybe if Sutton didn't like Russ, like Baldwin didn't like Russ, like
sure,
maybe there'd be more there. Like,
yeah,
spike catches. I don't know.
And the other problem, Cease, is that the rational state of this team, if you watch their defense, is playing very well. Randy Gregory's working out, etc. Patrick Surtain was out there. The rational approach for this offense is this team is to let the defense in the running game and field position and mistake-free football. I think that's how they win games. So you have some tension here between giving Russell Wilson a little more freedom, a blank canvas to paint on, and giving him more specific orders. And I think that even though the wins they've had, this team should be 3-0. I mean, it took 2 fumbles at the goal line, or they're 3-0 now, an ugly 3-0. But 3-0 nonetheless. And look, if you're beating a team like San Francisco, then you're doing something right. So we'll see. But the other thing I want to go back to what you said, and this is one of the situations, and look, I'm guilty of this in some situations too. We want things to change. And occasionally they do, like Tony Pollard. But no, this is the same backfield we saw last year. I have the old acronym from my programming days, my systems analyst days, Cease. It is WYS IWYG. You know that one?
What?
WYSIWYG.
WYSIWYG. Yeah. Okay.
What you see is what you get.
Okay, well, what do we see with the Raiders this week? Derek Carr usually handles the Broncos, but he's done that with short of fishing, dink and dunking, passing. His ADOT, Bloom, there, and they got me doing it, is higher than it's ever been. It's a point of a yard higher than it was last year, and last year was his career high. So with McDaniels, they're trying to go downfield a little bit more. Mac Hollins, everybody. But they're not winning. And Devontae Adams is pissed off. Darren Waller should be able to handle the Broncos defense. I know George Kittle didn't do much last week, but it was his first game back, groin injury, what have you. Denver's still weak against tight end, although Jair Evero is going to be a head coach someday. So everyone get used to it. Jair Evero, going to be a head coach, really has that Broncos defense playing well. How do they respond against a Raiders team that has the assets? They're desperate. They're 0-3. They're at home. They're facing a division rival. And if Denver's offense doesn't get off to a hot start, the Raiders will. The Raiders are number 3 in the league when it comes to drives ending in a score. Almost 50% of their drives that they have end in a score. The Broncos are 24th in the league at around 30% of their drives end in a score. So if Denver doesn't get out hot, the Raiders will, and then Denver can't really catch up unless Russ goes aloha.
Yeah. So we have all these possibilities laid out. I'll tee one up for you, Cease, right here. Devontae Adams versus Patrick Surtain. 2.
Yeah, I wish it could be Pat Surtain versus Darren Waller, but Surtain against Adams, he's gonna catch. He'll be like DK in week 1.
Right.
What do you have, like 7 catches for 40 yards?
Exactly.
Keep everything in front of you.
Right, and you're going to play Devontae Adams. I'm not saying bench Devontae Adams,
Mhm.
but it should give you a different projection here. It's pointed out in the chat room, Hunter Renfrow still not practicing. So when we haven't seen that many of these, but when a player is still not practicing a week after their concussion, I think that it's very doubtful they're going to play the next week. We'll see, but let's project Adams limited to the short passing game, Renfrow likely out. It's another Mac Hollins game, right? You're going to pick on Ronald Darby, I guess. And that's been working. And then there's Waller and Moreau. And that's the thing we're going to have to watch here. I know that Waller, wants to get paid and everything. But this team, actually, when they had using both tight ends last week, Moreau is a dangerous player. And we know that Josh McDaniels knows how to draw plays, 2 tight end plays that can work. So we may be seeing a bit of a change here. Waller is a bit of a disappointment, but if it becomes more of a Waller-Moreau offense, and what happens here is that when Hunter Renfrow is out, perhaps this team sees, it's a better mode for this offense, which we all speculated on anyway. We liked Renfrow. We really thought maybe they weren't going to have 2 outside wide receivers on the field, but Mac Hollins has been pretty good. The other thing you're going to see here is Josh Jacobs. And Josh Jacobs is going to have relative success here. This team has scored 6 offensive touchdowns, 0 to Josh Jacobs. That's going to change. There is another Mike Clay shout out. There's some touchdown regression, positive regression. It's not even a thing. Y'all get it. So Josh Jacobs still should stay in your lineup. And this is probably the best of the 3 late games to watch. So everybody's going to get to feel your pain.
Yeah. Whew, here we go. And then we get to Sunday Night Football. Things get better. They do get better. At least we hope. Kansas City and Tampa Bay, again, our thoughts are with Florida. Are they going to move this to Minnesota? Have they made that
They hadn't
yet?
made the call yet, but if they do, that's where it would be going.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So Chiefs side of things, and they're like, okay, we had just had a team play keep away against us, and it worked. And they themselves need to have a larger commitment to running the ball. I feel like Buffalo and Kansas City, who are on a crash collision for each other, right? Like, whoever runs the ball more in that game will win that game. Mark down the date, September 29th, everybody, because you got to run a little more, right? Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I know he's at a touchdown every week, whatever. Chat room saying sell high on CEH. Yeah, I wouldn't even have bought him in the first place, but that's just me. I do love Isaiah Pacheco, who's doing nothing now. But it's like, Chiefs, you could do a little more. EB, my man, Eric Bieniemy, like you could run, please, a little bit. And we're waiting every week. It's going to be a different wide receiver. What about when it's none?
Yeah, see, who was it? I don't remember, but when there was some arguing between Bieniemy and Mahomes last week, it was Shady McCoy who popped up, Cease, and said he doesn't really know anything about Bieniemy. I don't know. I'm not saying that's true, but I am saying that a lot of the stuff that makes wheels turn in the NFL is out of our view. We're peeking through keyholes. But you're right to say that this Kansas City offense is not inspiring right now. And you could say it's Tyreek Hill. You can say a lot of things. I think what Shaq Barrett saying, this offensive line for the Chiefs looks like the one that we attacked in the Super Bowl. It doesn't look that much different to me. So again, what's the theme here? Defensive battle, right? Not going to be a ceiling fantasy game. And I think that when you look at this Kansas City offense, what are they going to get going here? I mean, there's Travis Kelce. I think Travis Kelce against Tampa Bay is going to be a good matchup for him. McCole Hardman's banged up. So you're probably still going to play Juju. He's been okay 2 out of 3 weeks. And the first week was just 1/2, but they're not facing the Cardinals again. You're probably still going to play him in a PPR league. You're not playing Marquez Valdez-Scantling, but you could see him get a little bit more. Maybe some more Sky Moore, who was terrible last week on special teams. Maybe some more Justin Watson. Maybe some more Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the passing game. This has been really interesting to observe because Clyde Edwards-Helaire, unlike Josh Jacobs, Clyde Edwards-Helaire has 3 of his team's touchdowns. So he's been a good fantasy play. Now, without those touchdowns, we wouldn't be looking at him as more than a low-end running back too, and he doesn't have the snaps. He doesn't have the steady touches. They're using Jerick McKinnon more in the passing game. Isaiah Pacheco getting sprinkled in. However, it still makes sense that Clyde Edwards-Helaire would be a very important player in this game. That's how you slow down the pass rush, screen passes, right? And plus, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a very good route runner. So especially with the middle of the field of the defense concerned with Travis Kelce, you would think that would create a lot of those routes that break open pretty early for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So I think you're going to stick with Edwards-Helaire here. But I also think, Cease, as you basically foreshadowed, it might just be a bad night to play any Chiefs. You're going to play Travis Kelce and probably be okay, like 5 for 50 or something. But this looks to me like a defensive battle, much exactly like the Tampa Bay Green Bay game, exactly like the Tampa Bay, well, all the Tampa Bay games what we had this year, 19-3, 20-10, and 14-12. So set expectations accordingly.
Set them accordingly. Set your DVRs, ladies and gentlemen. Nobody does that anymore.
Yeah.
It's Tampa Bay side, and it's Tom Brady. We're trying to figure out who's going to play,
Right.
who's actually going to be out there, right? And it's watching the injury report. It's gone even beyond like just watching Friday. Hey, just check back Friday. Like, oh God, check back
during warmups.
Yeah, they're all game time decisions. All right, there's playoff Lenny. Okay, cool. Chat room's asking when we're going to see Rachaad White. All right, I get that. I dig that. But the Buccaneers, not, hey, if you can win ugly, they're fine with that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the NFC South. It's going to be an ugly division. Have you watched the Falcons? Have you watched the Panthers? Have you watched the Saints? It's the NFC ugly. So Tom Brady's going to throw a lot to Mike Evans, who's back from suspension. If Julio Jones is out, and then I think Chris Godwin's almost certainly out, then Russell Gage becomes an interesting wide receiver 3 flex type. But Kansas City's defense is a good defense, and they didn't let Jonathan Taylor get going last week. And yes, Matt Ryan had that drive at the end. The other touchdown was set up by Sky Moore muffing a punt. And the Chiefs should have won that game, right? I mean, the Chiefs are looking back at last week's game. They had a fake punt from like the 24. I know they don't trust their kicker, but come on. I mean, a fake field goal. I know, and it was like 4th and 9. Come on, Andy. Come on, man. I'd rather just go for it on 4th and 9 with Patrick Mahomes than do that. The element of surprise. The surprise is that this isn't a very good offense when they're not playing the Cardinals. So the Bucs don't have to open it up. You're going to see Fournette get his volume, but that's probably it. Maybe Cole Beasley does a little bit more second week with the offense, assuming he's called up from the practice squad. But again, ugly. Both teams. What's the under here? If it's not 35, it's not low enough.
That is correct. Monday Night Football is the final game we're going to talk about. Part 2 of the Week 4 preview here on the Audible. It is the LA Rams. I can actually read my own handwriting. It's LAR, not CAR. It's Rams versus 49ers. It's a battle in the NFC West, and it's, again, ugly.
Yeah, I was going to say.
This is what happens when nobody plays in the preseason, right? First month of the season. Preseason is almost over, everybody. Just so you know, like hopefully October brings pumpkin spice lattes.
Mm-hmm.
Not a pumpkin spice latte. I'm not a
pumpkin
latte
rolls. Guy. The one good thing that comes
back.
Pumpkin
rolls?
Pumpkin rolls with that cream cheese filling. Yeah,
okay.
That's where it's at. But there's entirely about 95% of pumpkin spice things are not necessary.
That we could just end the show on that, Bloom.
Yeah,
but hopefully October means better football. I know a lot of people into Halloween celebrations. We celebrate Dias de los Muertos in my house. So like, okay, let's talk about better football from the Rams and 49ers. Is it possible this week on the Rams side? Not real excited. Obviously got Cooper Kupp. Yes. But Matthew Stafford, this is what happens when your quarterback's elbow doesn't work anymore. Hey, what's going on with Stafford? Oh, he didn't throw for 6 months. That's what's going on.
Yeah, and the offensive line. See, so I think some of it is this extended preseason with teams not playing the starters very much in the preseason. And remember, we can go back to the preseason, and so many teams were having trouble with the offensive line. Remember, a lot of these guys haven't even showed up as completely healthy yet, right? Ronnie Stanley and David Bakhtiari. Tyron Smith goes down right away. So offensive line play for the Rams is a problem. And the one time that Matthew Stafford played in San Francisco in Santa Clara last year, it was a 31-10 loss. There was a pick 6, Jamie Ward, who's not out there for San Francisco. So again, ugly game, defensive battle, a stalemate if you will. You're not going to play running back because it's not going to be a very high-scoring game, and we'll watch. The snaps are pretty close to equal, but it was more of a Cam Akers week last week. Cam Akers got the touchdown. Henderson got the touchdown the week before. Just to give you an idea of this picture. Yes, you're going to play Cooper Kupp, but even Cooper Kupp without that 20-yard end-around touchdown would have been kind of a dud last week. Tyler Higbee, right? This is the old struggle target. When the offense is struggling, it's that tight end that can sit down in the middle of the field. So he's still at tight end pretty good this year. And that's it. Allen Robinson, this is not the game for Allen Robinson to get going. And I think he'll probably see Travarius Ward. Ben Skowronek, now that's an interesting guy. Why is he an interesting guy? Number one, because he can block. Okay. You had one of his big plays last week was one where he was lined up as fullback. And guess what? When a wide receiver can block like a fullback and he can get out into the open field, you're probably not going to have him matched up with someone that can cover him. So let's keep an eye on this because Van Jefferson's on IR. I don't know if anyone caught that. They finally I guess they messed something up or he had a setback. I don't know. Skowronek is becoming an interesting player here because he helps them with their offensive line woes and he helps Sean McVay create mismatches, and that's the one thing that this offense can key on right now because otherwise they're not getting the engine to turn over.
It is a copycat league, and Jaira Evero with the Broncos had the 49ers go away from the rushing attack. They said Ayuk's going to get something, even though it was on a rub route. They said Debo's going to get something as a receiver, but nothing as a runner. And Elijah Mitchell last week, they went away from that. After the week previous, the 49ers ran it, 45 times? Whatever the number was. It's like, okay, so the number of rushing attempts, where's that number, right? I'm sure somebody has it somewhere. Hell, I probably said it last week, but I can't remember, Bloom. The number of rushing attempts, the more that goes up for the 49ers, the more their win probability goes up, especially with Jimmy G tossing the rock.
Yeah, you play it close to the vest here. Trent Williams is out for 4 to 6 weeks. Only the best left tackle maybe of this era. Okay. That's no good. And for George Kittle, you probably are going to play George Kittle. I'm not going to get cute and play some of these marginal tight ends. Even a Tyler Conklin has his quarterback change. I guess Tyler Higbee in a PPR would be a tougher call just because he's been so consistent. But y'all get it. That being said, you probably keep George Kittle in to block more, right? So Jeff Wilson, it all converges at Jeff Wilson. And you're still going to keep playing Deebo Samuel, but you're probably going to see Brandon Ayuk get Jalen Ramsey. And you're going to see a very, very conservative game. I think you're going to see another one of these games that is going to be coming down to field goals, coming down to field position, avoiding mistakes, maybe a bad bounce. And that's just where it's at. So we can look at these last two games of the week and say, from a fantasy football standpoint, I hope you get your points in before we get to the night games, right? Because there's going to be highly entertaining football. And again, and this is always woven into our show, Cease, hopefully Kansas City, Tampa Bay, Rams, San Francisco, that's entertaining football. Those are going to be entertaining matchups. But if what you're watching is how your fantasy teams are doing and you're thinking of it in fantasy football terms, unless you play IDP fantasy football, IDP Blitz on Wednesdays, then you're going to be disappointed. So put all that aside and just enjoy some good football because these teams are going to play hard. These teams are going to play with a lot of bad intentions towards each other. It's just not going to result in a lot of big offensive plays.
Right. And now you got me thinking of Beck.
No. So
you said where it's at.
Oh, yeah. Two
turntables
and a microphone.
Two turntables and a microphone and something in your eye. Anyway. What if Beck could write a song about Sleeper? You know what I mean? Like it's Beck, right. It's Sleeper, it's two of the greatest things combined together.
Right. I think it'd be from that Sea Change era. I forget who it was. Juliet Lewis. Somebody dumped him, right? And he wrote Sea Change.
Yes, I think it was Juliet Lewis.
Yeah, and he wrote Sea Change, like the most depressing. This is Beck. I'm coming with the Sleeper of the week.
Here it is.
It's time for the Sleeper of the Week, powered by Sleeper.
That's right. We're singy. We're very singy today. Yeah. Usually we're very chatty, but we're singy. Sleeper makes me happy, though. Sleeper of the Week makes me happy because it's Isaiah McKenzie. Bloom, you stole it earlier.
Yeah.
I was like, shh. Don't say sleeper of the week yet. Sleeper of the week, Isaiah McKenzie. That's mine in part 2 of the week 4 preview here on the Audible. And yeah, I love Louder with Crowder. You know, Jamison Crowder, I've always had a great respect for him since the Senior Bowl. Where's our pot stoner degenerate Jason? So you can take the bong grip because I said Senior Bowl. But like, yeah. I love Louder with Crowder. But if you could have more Isaiah McKenzie, please. I think that would help cure. And again, using those short passes to at least supplement the ground game. Please, Buffalo, please. Even Zach Moss hasn't looked bad. I'm like, you have all this evidence, right? The universe speaks to you. If he's Ken Dorsey, he's too upset to hear the universe. You got to have a calm mind to listen to the universe when it tells you things like run the freaking ball, or at least use Isaiah McKenzie on short passes to supplement those handoffs that you don't use because you don't want to. Anyway, Bloom, it's week 4, preview part 2. Who is your sleeper of the week?
All right, we're going to go sleeper of the week, of course, overlapping here with What the Heck Flex, the ever popular What the Heck Flex. So I'm going to go the deepest sleeper of the week this week. The deepest What the Heck Flex is DJ Dallas. DJ Dallas is interesting because we know he's an explosive player, and Seattle's playing Detroit. Detroit should get out to lead to this game. So that may take Rashad Penny and Kenneth Walker out of the game plan. And it could be a big DJ Dallas second half as Seattle's trying to catch up. And in that same game, let's talk about a Reynolds wrap. Craig Reynolds and Josh Reynolds. The twofer, right? 2-for-1 special at the grocery store on your Reynolds. Rest of your What the Heck Flexes this week at running back, Alexander Madison, even if Dalvin Cook plays, Samaje Perine, even if Joe Mixon plays, I'm going to mention Justice Hill. Wide receiver, you mentioned McKenzie. Treylon Burks is interesting just because Indianapolis can stop the run. Now, Tennessee's probably still going to give Derrick Henry 25 carries for 63 yards, but you're going to have to get something going with the passing game here. Treylon Burks, his involvement's going up. And I think that they're ready to try to get him going in this game against Indianapolis. Zay Jones, and maybe he's not a sleeper. He shouldn't be a sleeper, right? He's leading the team in catches. And against Philadelphia, I think you're going to get the ball out quickly. That's a lot of Zay Jones. Tyler Boyd, speaking of getting the ball out quickly, remember, it was kind of a hot route last week when he caught that touchdown where he broke the first tackle and he was off to the races. And guess who likes to play that kind of defense where if you can break the first tackle, you're off to the races. So I think you're going to see Xavier Howard on Jamar Chase or T. Higgins. Tyler Boyd could have another good week. Mac Hollins, we talked about the setup there with PS2 on Devontae Adams. KJ Osborne, again, last drive of the week, 2 28-yard passes to KJ Osborne, including a touchdown, and you win the game. Maybe do that a little earlier in the game this week. Kevin,
please, and thank you. By the way, our friend Dave in the chat room, he says the cats are on a loop behind Sig. So blink twice if you're not in the Matrix. So we didn't have the glitch. Didn't have the glitch in the Matrix. All right, that is a wrap, ladies and gentlemen, for part 2 of the week 4 preview. Preview? I think that's a different show. Anyway.
That's the little camera in the litter box.
There you go. What is it? The people have the camera that you can watch your pet and then like hit a button and it dispenses a treat.
Yeah.
Like when you're at work, have you seen those things?
Yeah, Pavlovian. It's sad though because we had one of those and we would talk to our Siamese cat Opal when we were gone on vacation and she sounded so sad. She sounded like she was saying, "Where are you?
Where are you?
Why did you leave? I won't do it again. Whenever I did, I'm sorry."
She's all batting at the screen, right?
She's looking around for us. She's going, "What? Where?"
Cats are in every dimension all at the same time.
Yes. I've seen cats. Cats can change direction in the air. They can change direction against air. How do you do that?
Yeah. What's their 40-yard dash time, right?
3-cone drill.
Paw frequency, not foot frequency, right? Anyway, that is a wrap for the show. We appreciate each and every one of you. Do all those YouTube things like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid. And we appreciate all of you. He is Sigmund Bloom. You follow him on Twitter at Sigmund Bloom. I am at Cecil Lammey. The show is at the Audible. Thank you all very, very much. Stay tuned. And I command that you must all stay frosty.